The diagram window provides a nice way to control your EES program. The diagram window is really meant for professional users of EES that want to develop applications in EES and then deploy these applications to a user base using a nice front-end GUI. Therefore, the diagram window has a bunch of features that are limited to the professional version, and these include things like animation, distributables, and the one that we're going to talk about here, which is the ability to make child diagram windows. The professional version of EES has no limit on the number of diagram windows that you can have. So you start here with the main diagram window, which can have then children, and these are diagram windows that you can access from the main diagram window, and the children can then themselves have child diagram windows, allowing you to carefully organize your GUI into layers that makes it really easy for a user to navigate. Each child diagram window has a parent, which is the diagram window that it was created in. So for example, the main diagram window might show a cycle simulation like this one. So this is the partial cooling cycle that we were working on for exercise 3 in this course. The main diagram window for this example will allow the user to enter inputs like operating conditions for the cycle and look at cycle outputs like cycle efficiency. However, the cycle is composed of many components like turbines and compressors and heat exchangers and so on, and it's not convenient to have all of the inputs and the outputs that are related to these components also on the main diagram window, as it's going to become cluttered and difficult to read. So instead, a child diagram window will allow you to click on a component in order to bring up a diagram window that is dedicated to that component, and the result then is a much cleaner and more layered professional looking GUI that's easier for the user to navigate. So there's a couple ways to create a child diagram window, and the first one is to use the new child button in the diagram toolbar. So we would first go to the diagram window that exists that we want to serve as the parent of the child diagram window that we're trying to create. So in this case, I'll go to the main diagram window, that'll be the parent, and then we click the new child button here on the toolbar, and that'll bring up the create new child diagram window dialog. And in this dialog, you're going to enter the name of the child diagram window that you want to create. So for example, here we'll call it the main compressor, and that'll be a child diagram that is dedicated to characteristics of the main compressor, and the parent is the main diagram window. The location and the size here refer to the optional hot area in the parent diagram window, which is an area that you can click on in order to select this child diagram window. And by default, if you create the child diagram this way, the height and width of the hot area are going to be set to 0, so that it's not possible to click in the body of the parent diagram window to access this child. You can enable the child diagram or not using the radio button, and you can also select whether or not you want to place an access tab for the child diagram in the main diagram window. If you select OK, then the child diagram window is created, and you can put this child diagram window into development or application mode and use all the same tools to build it out as we have been talking about for the main diagram window. And of course, you can actually put a child diagram window within this child diagram window. So this child diagram can become the parent for another child diagram if it makes sense for your application to have, that many layers. There's two ways that you can access a child diagram window that's created this way, and the first is to just select the tab from its parent or from the main diagram window, and then the second is to actually select the window from the Windows menu. So you go down to diagram windows and you can navigate through the structure to find the diagram window that you're interested in. The second way to create a child diagram window is to actually designate a hot area in the parent that links to the window. So let's go ahead and delete this child diagram window that we just created, and we'll make it again. So we'll create a new one, and to create the child diagram window using this method, what you do is you press and hold the shift keys down, the shift and the control keys down simultaneously, and then you use the mouse with the left button depressed to outline a rectangular area. And this is going to be the hot area in the parent window. So eventually, if a user clicks inside of this rectangular area, it will take him or her to the child diagram window. So here we're going to create a hot area around the main compressor, and when I release the mouse button, you get this dialog that's going to ask you to name the child diagram window that you just created. So here we will call it the main compressor window, and we'll click OK, and now we have an empty child diagram window with that name. So we can build up this child diagram window just like we would the main diagram window. It's got its own toolbar. We can put the same kind of controls and outputs on this. Since this is having to do with the main compressor, maybe we'll put a picture of the compressor on there. So we'll go to the palette right here on the toolbar and find the right picture. So it's a compressor. Put that on there. Stretch it out and make it bigger. And then this would be the window where we would enter things that were specific to the compressor. So for example, we might want to have an input variable that is the compressor efficiency. And of course, as soon as I enter the compressor efficiency on the diagram window, I can't also enter it in the equations. So I should go back to the tabs, and in the component performance parameters tab, I need to get rid of the compressor efficiency because it can't be entered in two places. So let's go back to the diagram window, and what else might we want here? We could put maybe an output variable that is the outlet temperature of the compressor. So I'm on the wrong tab, so let's go back to the main tab. So now I should be able to see the output variable, which is T, I think it would be T8 would be the output temperature. So we'll put that on here. I could put the inlet variable, the inlet temperature. I could put compressor power, specific speed, whatever it is that I think would be interesting to the user. And obviously, if it were a more complicated component, you might have to enter a whole bunch of inputs to specify its behavior. But at this point, I have a nice little child diagram that lets the user control specifically the main compressor. So let's go ahead and we'll put this into application mode. You can see that's already in application mode. So now I have this GUI that from the main diagram window I can control the cycle parameters, and then if I click here on the main compressor, it brings up this main compressor window, and I can control just the compressor. Right? So if I run, you can see that it solves, and I get a solution. And if I go into the main compressor window, I can see what's going on with the compressor. One thing you saw there when it solved was that the plot flashed up, and it did that previously as well. That's maybe something we don't want, and so that's something that we could avoid with the right directive. And so this is a nice opportunity, I guess, to introduce the directive information window. Probably we should talk more about this, but there's a directive that does almost anything you could think of. What I would like to do in this particular instance is hide the plot window as it's calculating, or actually after it's calculating and as it's doing these property plot directives. So if I go to the options menu and then go to directive info, and then let's see, this would be a directive related to display and formatting, and I can go down here and see, yeah, I want to hide window. So there's a $hide window, and I can actually click on this drop down list, and I want to hide the plot window, and then let's paste that at the bottom of the equations window, and it just constructed that directive for me. So now I think if I go back to the diagram window and I calculate again, you'll see that that plot never flashes up, which is nice. So that's one way of doing that, and you can look through all of the many directives that are available. So once you have your child diagrams defined, you might want to modify them. So one way to do that is you just bring the child diagram to the front. So that's what I've done here. You put it into development mode, which it already is in development mode. And then if you right click in here anywhere except for on an input or an output, you can select properties, and it'll bring up the modify hot area information dialog. And in here you can change its name, you can change its parent, you can change the characteristics of the hot area, and so forth. The other handy thing to know about is if you go into a diagram window that has a hot area defined, you can see what they all are by pressing down the control and the shift key together. So here, if it's in, first you got to put it into development mode, so that's what I'm doing here, and then you press control and shift and you can see there's the hot area that I had defined around the compressor, and if there were others, they'd all be defined as well. So sometimes that's really handy. If I click on that, then of course I'm going to bring that child diagram up and you can modify it. So this is child diagram windows. This is obviously, I think, a nice way to make your GUI a lot more professional looking, a lot more good in terms of the user experience. And yeah, we'll move on in the next videos to some other professional features of the diagram window.